With the 2026 NBA draft quickly approaching, I think one of the most important exercises before you make your next big board for this cycle is to reflect and review on your opinions last year. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to go back, look at my top 100 big board, and see how it's aged after year one. First, let's go over the tiers I had. The red tier being your superstar caliber MVP potential type of player, the orange tier being an all NBA caliber type of guy, yellow tier, all-star caliber prospect, green tier, starting caliber prospect, blue tier, a quality bench player, purple tier, some guy who's going to get garbage minutes, maybe be a good two-way player, a G League all-star. The brown tier, don't draft, would not even consider for my top 60, but definitely worth trying out in the summer league, giving a 10-day contract, etc. And then lastly, my black tier, these are the guys that I was 100% just not considering to be an NBA player and pretty much just fillers for my top 100. Guys who I think will end up in Europe or, not pursuing basketball for much longer. With that being said, we're going to start right at the top. Number one, Cooper Flagg, being the only player in the red tier, which is quite obvious, and that's held up great. My comparison didn't. And to give context, my comparisons are more about play style, not about productivity or how I think their career is going to turn out, even though sometimes they may align just by chance. The Kawhi comparison, there's worse out there, but the Embiid was awful. And obviously Cooper Flagg was a hard person to give a comparison to. And this year I'm going to be doing way more full scouting reports in depth. But my thought process behind Embiid was thinking that Cooper Flagg was strictly going to be a post player or a stretch post player. But his footwork, his defensive versatility reminded me of Embiid. And then obviously the perimeter defense of Kawhi and elite shot making. That's what I thought of for Cooper Flagg. Nonetheless, he's a clear star just with bad comps. And for a potentially generational player like Cooper Flagg, I wouldn't use that G word quite yet because it is overused. But for a guy of his caliber, it's pretty rare that you're going to have a good comparison to him. At number two, we have Dylan Harper in the orange tier. And I wouldn't change a thing yet again. Comparison, Penny and Cade, not mad at that. I think next year he's going to be the second best player on the Spurs, no doubt. He's really rose to the occasion in these playoffs. Love watching him play. I can't wait to see what he's going to show us in year two. Number three, VJ Edgecombe in the yellow tier. So now we're going to have a run of guys who I think are for sure all-star caliber, but I wouldn't solidify them as going to be a potential all-NBA player. And with VJ, I had his comparisons being Anthony Edwards and Scottie Pippen. I was getting a lot of flack for the Anthony Edwards comparison last year, but honestly, I think it's aged very well. The issue was his ability to finish. And I think VJ proved that he can do that at a high level, especially it only being year one. He's only going to get better. And yeah, he just came out the gate an absolute stud. Very surprising offensive impact. I would definitely keep him at 3 if I had to re-rank these guys. And I'm excited to see how year two goes for him as well. So far, everything is all good as expected. Number 4, we have Ace Bailey. His comp was Jalen Johnson and Michael Beasley. Definitely showed more Beasley. It took a while for him to adjust, but the shot making is still there. Offensively, he's super gifted. Athletically, he's a sleeper. He's very gifted there as well. He will need to bulk up a bit, especially if he wants to be a competent defender or an above average defender, but he's showed flashes of still being a top 5 guy, and I don't like overreacting to people's rookie years too much, because there's people like Chris Duarte who end up having a great rookie year, and Michael Carter-Williams, and that ends up being their best season. With Ace, I think it's going to be the opposite. This is going to be his worst season. I think he learned a lot. He's going to grow, especially with the Jazz are heading next year, in these next 2 years. I'm really excited to see that team grow around him and just see him blossom. At number 5, we had Colin Murray-Boyles, also in the all-star caliber tier. Comparison is Siakam and Aldridge. He's so hard to draw comparisons to, so I'm not mad at that. He was a really interesting prospect for me in last year's draft cycle, because I was not a fan of him his freshman year at South Carolina, and I never expected him to jump into my top 5 in year 2, but analytically, the more I watched him, I saw that jump. He grew to become a favorite of mine. I like keeping an open mind towards things, and it ended up working for the better. I know people were on him throughout high school and his freshman year of college, but for me, he needed to stay that second year in order to develop into the player that he currently is. And I think that's a common theme now with NIL, and a lot of players, I won't name names, but Alan Graves, he just declared today, I think he should have taken the Colin Murray-Boyles route, stuck around one more year, whether he stayed or transferred, to have that kind of 180, in my opinion, of proving he does belong, in these lottery top 10, top 5 conversations. At number 6, we have Colin Knueppel. Yeah, he should have been top 5. There's a reason why he was drafted top 5. There's a reason why the consensus was top 5. I had him slightly lower just because I didn't think that he could be a number 1 option, and he clearly can and could potentially be a top 5 greatest shooter of all time. He already broke the rookie record, not even close. Yeah, he's an absolute stud. I will be interested to see how he develops year after year and how high that ceiling really is, because I don't think any of us know right now. But from what he showed after year 1, I'm extremely impressed, and he should definitely be top 5. At number 7, we have Asa Newell. I think a lot of people are going to be like, oh, you had Asa at 7. That's crazy. Even after this year, I'm still not upset at that. He didn't get much playing time. I still think he's a gem. Again, the comparison is play style. Bagley Okonwu, Mr. Fundamental, down low. He's going to get you 16, 8, and 3 with a block and a steal. That's all you need from him, just to be consistent, a solid defender, and just be a good lob threat. And just fundamentally sound in the post. I know that's not a very good archetype for players to succeed right now. You have to be extremely versatile, but in today's day and age where you have to have Wemby stoppers and post players are starting to come back as the predominant position in the league, I think Asa Newell, while being undersized, can absolutely be efficient enough offensively and fundamentally sound defensively in order to still be a borderline all-star guy. At number 8, we have Noah Asenge. The comparison for him, Millsap and Iggy, I don't even know. He's just a very odd player to wrap your head around. As a Bulls fan, I'm still undecided about him. I was pretty pumped when we selected him. He didn't get any playing time this year. He better get real minutes with how the Bulls are going. We're in full rebuild mode. We sold at the deadline. Give our young guys minutes. Who cares about winning right now? Let's just find our guys, find a good rotation, and develop. That's all we need. At number 9, we have Derek Queen. Tim Duncan and Wendell Carter is my comp. Tim Duncan is simply because of the footwork. Obviously, defensively, Derek Queen and Tim Duncan are polar opposites, but in the post, Derek Queen has some of the best footwork I've ever seen. Him and Cooper Flagg were probably top two in this class of post footwork and just post moves. And Derek Queen proved that he can do it at the next level. Now, defensively, there's some extreme limitations, and that's going to prevent his ceiling from potentially being all-star caliber. But we've seen Nikola Jokic overcome very similar defensive limitations. And Derek Queen is similarly an offensively gifted player. Again, not saying he's going to become Jokic, but I'm just saying that there still is a way for his type of player to become an all-star. Having him at number 9, I have no regrets. At number 10, we have Trey Johnson. A lot of people had him a little bit higher, even touching that top 5, just because he's a 3-level scorer. I think my comparison was kind of spot on. That ceiling of CJ McCollum being a low-end all-star, high-end starter, and then that floor, even though it's not ceiling and floor, kind of with this comparison of Tim Hardaway Jr. just being a really good catch and shoot guy. I can still give you 15 on any night off the bench. Nothing's changed in my mind in terms of how I would rank him or evaluate him. We'll see what he does next year with a rebuilt Wizards team. At number 11, we have Kaman Malawach, and my comps for him, Mark Williams, Zubac. When he got minutes, he was an absolute dog. I was hoping they'd give him more minutes throughout the year, but I think next year he's absolutely going to be a firm player in the rotation, and he's going to be super fun to watch. Number 12, we have Jeremiah Fears, still going with this all-star tier. Comparison, Fox and Scoot, I think that is spot on still. He was the consensus number 6 player, and I had him at 12. Kind of called it. I don't think he's a top 6 player in this class, and I don't think he's going to be... He could be close to a top 6 player, but I really don't think he's cracking that number there. I think he has some shooting limitations. Speed can only get you so far, especially when you're very undersized. And the thing is, he is strong for his size, and it still limits him. There's just some things you can't work around. And how lanky he's just naturally built, it's going to be really hard to keep his speed and keep his shooting mechanics, fundamentals, everything that he's learned along the way consistent while still trying to gain all that muscle mass. He's a really good player, but again, I don't think he's this franchise changer that the Pelicans drafted him to be. At 13, we have Thomas Sorber. He was out this season due to injury. My comp for him, Sengun Mobley, is what it is. We'll see. He could definitely live up to that. I'm super excited to see how he develops in OKC. Obviously, they have recently been able to develop any and every player that comes on their team, and I think Sorber won't be any different. At number 14, speaking of developmental projects that I am stoked about, is Carter Bryant. And with Carter Bryant, everyone saw the potential pre-draft with this kid. He has some very special traits. I compared him to Paul George and Aaron Wiggins, and this year I'm honestly super impressed. I don't think other people will see what I saw, but the way he handles himself, the way he navigates the game, you can see him learning and growing as a player, just soaking in all the information from Wemby, Coach, Fox, HB, all the guys on that team. And I am fully expecting him to break out next year. If I were to re-rank these guys, Carter Bryant would 100% be in the top 10. For him, it was really about landing spot. If I knew he was going to get drafted by the Spurs, he absolutely would have been higher on my list. But, that was just fate right there. And I think this is perfect for his development. And the Spurs are going to be scary. Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, Carter Bryant, Victor Wembanyama, and whoever else they add on their team, yeah, watch out. Shoot, they might win this year. Who knows? 15, we have Kasparas Jakubonis. He will be the last player in this all-star caliber tier that I had. James Harden, Goran Dragic are the comps. Still not too mad at that. He's been learning and developing fine. Definitely made a bunch of mistakes this year. That's kind of how he was in his year with Illinois. Just this year he wasn't as dominant. I'm still expecting him to be a good NBA point guard. All-star tier is too early to change that or have a definitive idea of what his potential will be, but I'm still on the Jakubonis train of being a top 20 pick for sure, and even top 15. I have no regrets. At 16, we have Rasheer Fleming, highest graded player in my starting caliber tier, with Naz Reid and Jabari Smith Jr. being the comps. He was the consensus 27. I'm glad I had him at 16. Again, similar to Malwatch, did not get minutes this year, but in the limited minutes that he did get, he made some of the most elite defensive plays I've ever seen from a rookie, and that is no hyperbole. Just absolutely freak of nature plays. And not only that, but one of the things I was worried about with him, like I could have had him higher, but one of the things I was worried about is his transition from going to a mid-major like St. Joe's to the NBA right away. And he did not seem phased. He played just as well, if not better, against higher competition. That tells me he's going to develop, and that tells me he's going to be a lot closer to the 16th best player in this class than the consensus 27. Absolutely love Fleming, and I'm pumped I am right about him. Guaranteed it. 17, we have Noah Penda, Denny Avdia, Michael Finley comp. I like the minutes that I saw, but there just wasn't enough to grasp anything else besides my thoughts of the previous scouting cycle, so that's still to be determined. At 18, we have Liam McNeely with the comps of Tobias Harris and Otto Porter. This ranking might be too high, I will admit. He lacks the size given the top 20 ranking for the type of player he is, and that's something I do remember debating last year, and I do think I ranked him higher than the average rank I had him throughout the cycle. I think I was a little bit high on him to end the year, and that's kind of come back to bite me so far. The only variable left, because we know his game. He's not going to change his play style at all. It's just about proving it when he's on the court, and he still hasn't gotten a lot of minutes. So there's still a little bit left to see. At 19, we have Adou Thiero. He was one of my guys in last year's draft. I was a lot higher on him than most, I felt like. Comps of Rui, Norman Powell. He had a 7-game sample in the G League this year, and it was elite. Go and watch the highlights. Go and look at the stats. He's an absolute hooper, and he will be on the Lakers roster 100% next season. No more G League for him. Bring him up. I'm super hopeful about him being a top 20 player still. At 20, we have Will Riley. The comp of RJ and Kuz, it's not great. Will Riley's kind of his own player, and he'll continue to play like Will Riley and do his thing. This year, he showed some great flashes. He had some great games. A lot of that is just opportunity being with the Wizards. You're not trying to necessarily win games. It's more about development. But to each their own, that played to his advantage. He was the 24th consensus guy via rookie scale. So when I mentioned consensus rankings, this is completely according to rookie scale. And I'm happy I had Will Riley top 20. Again, so far, I'm loving how I ranked this class. But still early. We got 80 more guys to go. And I already remember a couple guys I'm definitely wrong about. 21, Nick Clifford, Grant Hill, and Trevor Ariza comp. I do like the Trevor Ariza comp in the sense that he can be a really good, reliable three-point shooting wing. He won't wow you, but he can be a glue guy. He just proved to be a future good rotational wing in his rookie season. So I think that's a solid ranking for him. And this is my first big miss right here. At 22, we had Cam Jones. In the greens here, that's on me. Jalen Williams and Tyler Hero comp, what am I doing? Yeah, that's bad. Consensus 39, and I think the consensus is right here. I will say, though, while watching him at Marquette, it was clear that he was just a little bit in a league of his own in the Big East, and I'm not sure why it didn't translate. I know there was some off-the-court issues going on, nothing too serious, I don't think. Maybe that's a big factor, but yeah, I'll completely admit that's my first miss. Maxime Reynaud at 23. Balance out a miss with an absolute hit. Porzingis Bobo comp. Consensus 28, item at 23. He was on an all-rookie team. He was one of my guys, similar to Adu Thiero. Everyone hated me for putting him this high, especially the spreadsheet FC and the stat heads of the world. But he just proves that intangibles are extremely important in scouting. And if you don't think so, you are wrong. You are wrong. He can make up for his defensive analytics, and that was shown this year. It's not just because he was on the Kings and it's a usage thing. Hard work and the ability to develop isn't always something that you can put a number to. It's something that you have to trust with your gut and your own scouting eye. That's what I saw in Maxime Reynaud, and he made an all-rookie team, and it wasn't even playing his best. He has a long ways to go, and honestly, if I were to re-rank it, I would put him higher. I don't care what anyone else says. It is a fact that he is guaranteed to be a top 23 player in this class, and probably higher. I absolutely love him as a player. 24, Jace Richardson, Brogdon, and Malachi Flynn as the comps. Didn't get much PT. Need to see more from them. Don't ever do a dunk contest again. You're not your dad. That was awful. We're moving on. 25, Danny Wolf. Cat Horford comps are bad. Reflecting on that, not sure why I said that. That's on me. But I did say he was going to be the best Nets draft pick. And while I think Yegor Jomin outplayed him this year, I do think Danny Wolf was the best value for the Nets. I think that aged very well, and we'll get to Jomin soon on what I think of him and where I ranked him, because he obviously got drafted extremely high. 26, Jan Hansen. Sabonis and Enes Freedom, or Enes Kanter, as the comps there. What a shock on draft night. Definitely got drafted way too high, especially for the lack of playing time he got. You'd think if they would reach up that far to get him, they'd want to utilize him more. Blazers were a weird team this year, and now the Donovan Clingan breakout creates a lot of question marks for Young Hansen's future, because you can't run both of them in the same lineup. Yeah, still a huge mystery for him. Having him at 26, I genuinely don't know if I'm happy or upset about that. And then at 27, we have Yegor Jomin. I had him comped to Giddey and Bino Udrith. I think Giddey is who he should model his game after and try to replicate. I think that's very, very good for him. He could have been higher than this 27th ranking for sure, but he was still a massive, massive reach. I don't think he has all-star potential, despite what some people may say after overreacting to his first year, but there's still a bunch of holes. His BPM was atrocious. I do think his generic stats People might get too drawn into those after year one just because he's playing for the Brooklyn Nets and had plenty of opportunity to kind of just do what he wants. Again, I'd have him ranked higher than 27 moving forward, but I do think he's closer to 27 than his draft spot. 28, we have Walter Clayton. His comparison with Damian Lillard in campaign. I think he is this blue tier of being a quality bench guy. I think that's the definition of what Walter Clayton's career will be. Just a really good quality bench guy. And again, the Dame campaign play styles, I like that a lot still. I think I hit the nail on the head with that. 29, Tyrese Proctor, George Hill, and Patty Mills comparison. It was a good value pick by the Cavs. I don't have any complaints just yet about Proctor at 29. And now as we're reaching the second round, we're going to fly through these a lot quicker because the jury is still out on a lot of these guys. We haven't seen them get run time in the NBA. So pretty soon here, we're going to start flying through these. At 30, we have Bogoljub Markovic, and this is someone I want to make a point to take time for because he's absolutely the most overlooked player of this class. And he has been playing overseas for this past year, so not a lot of people have kept in touch with what he's doing. But the comps of Dario Saric and Boris Diaw, those are out the window. He will surpass both of those players moving forward. He had 17, 9, and 2 on 50% efficiency and won the Adriatic MVP. Now you're like, oh, whatever, Adriatic MVP is just players who didn't make it to the league and retired guys still trying to hoop. No. You don't understand. He's 20 years old. Other MVPs of major European professional leagues under the age of 21 include Victor Wembanyama, Alperen Şengün, Luka Doncic, and Nikola Jokic. I will repeat, he is in a category with Victor Wembanyama, Alperen Şengün, Luka Doncic, and Nikola Jokic. That is not by chance. That is by talent. The Bucks have a hidden gem in Bogoljub Markovic, and when he comes over and when he gets minutes, don't be surprised if he balls out. 31, Nolan Traore. Yeah, his consensus was 22. That was way too high. I'm happy I had him at 31. Jose Calderon and Jeff Teague for the comps, pretty accurate. There's a clear lack of touch and decision-making for a ball-dominant point guard heading into the draft. That was pretty glaring in my opinion. Some people held on to the traits that we saw early in the draft cycle and didn't pay attention to his lack of development and growth over the span of the season. And this year he just kind of proved that he's not quite a good fit in the modern NBA unless, one, his shot gets better, and two, his offensive IQ gets better. Defensively, he's okay, but this might be a Killian Hayes situation all over again. We'll see. 32, we have Chaz Lanier, Kendrick Nunn, Rodney Hood are my comps. And I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Ideally, he's your spark plug shooter off the bench, but this year for the Pistons, Dennis Jenkins came out of nowhere and took that role. So while I still think Chaz Lanier could be the 32nd player in this draft or right around that draft ranking, I'm not sure if we're going to see it because Dennis Jenkins completely stole his role. And I'm not quite sure what the Pistons will do with Chaz Lanier now. 33, we have Janai Broom. Again, we're still in this potential starting quality bench tier. And this one I messed up. Janai Broom honestly might have peaked. And one thing I'm realizing is if you're over a certain age and you don't get drafted in the first round, it's probably best to fade those guys. Obviously, taking a player 22 years or older in the first round is still considered a risk, but drafting a player 22 years or older in the second round, very, very, very rarely is that ever going to hit. And for me to rank Johni Broome early second, knowing his athletic limitations, his age, his play style being pretty limited as well. I think I just fell for him being a dominant college player and didn't really take a step back and look at how that'll translate to the NBA. So I will admit I was wrong. I was wrong about Johni Broome. 34, we have Hugo Gonzalez. Compared to Evan Fournier, Josh Richardson, he was analytically an absolute beast this year. I believe he even got like an all-rookie vote somehow based on that. I don't think he got enough minutes for that, but that's a different conversation. One thing that we can come to an agreement on is he is a winning player. All of the metrics, the film, when he's on the court, it all aligns that he's a winning player. He's not going to be a negative plus-minus guy. And that's a positive for whatever agenda you have for Hugo Gonzalez. At 35, this is my biggest miss, and I'm honestly not too surprised. This is just something I need to learn about moving forward. I had Cedric Howard compared to Vince Edwards and Jalen Williams. Obviously, he's closer to Jalen Williams than Vincent Edwards, at least trajectory-wise, after year one. Huge miss on me, and why? Why did I rank him so low? Because he was a draft darling for all of the analytics fans and spreadsheet FC guys. It was pretty clear that he is the prototypical NBA forward. It should have been obvious. I didn't believe his tape, and that's one thing I struggle with is when tape doesn't align with advanced analytics. What do you trust? Because I do believe my gut is right more often than not, but there are some players where you just have to accept they're hiding in plain sight. And Cedric Howard was obviously one of those. Two people in this draft cycle that I think are in that same vein are Abuka Okori and Alan Graves. I have started to do a 180 on them and learn from my mistakes. But, in about a month or so, you'll see where they end up on my final big board, and we'll see if I did learn from my mistakes. 36, we have RJ Luis. He's going back to college. I'm just going to I'm going to pretend that isn't real because that's stupid. I still think he could be a frisky, undersized play disruptor. A lot of people thought he should have stayed. Looking back, might not have been the worst idea, but he's very valuable in the sense that he plays a lot bigger than he is, and defensively, I would not want to line up against him on offense because defensively, he is just scrappy. He's all over the place. He gets in your face. You could always use guys like that. 37, we have Ryan Kalkbrenner. Channing Frye and Chet Holmgren comparison. Could have been top 30 for sure, but I still don't think he has the long-term starting potential to be a tier above where he's listed, which is this quality bench tier. So I'm not too mad that he's at 37. I think at this point we're just nitpicking, if he's going to be above a few players or below a few players. 38, Ben Seraph, Jeremy Lin, Bino Udrith comparison. I was heavy fading him heading into the draft, and after this rookie season, that just kind of confirms my thought process. He'll be an okay bench guard, but again, I don't think he's ever going to be a starter, and I definitely think my draft ranking right here compared to consensus is correct. 39, we have another Brooklyn Net, Drake Powell. Comparison of Peyton Watson and Andre Roberson. I think Peyton Watson would be an absolute perfect mentor for Drake Powell and someone he can look at, taking the same leaps and bounds he did and following his development. Will he do that? It's too soon to tell, but Drake Powell, Peyton Watson, I can see a world where he becomes a similar player. 40, we have Jamir Watkins. DeAndre Hunter and Jarrett Culver comp. Offensively, I don't think the DeAndre Hunter comp is good, but I like the defensive comps for Hunter and Culver for Jamir Watkins. This year, he was a bench mob MVP for the Wizards. I'm still happy with him at 40. I think he was slightly underrated and proved that he definitely is an NBA player. 41, we have Micah Peavy. Yeah, he just wasn't great in his limited minutes. Kind of worried about him, but we'll see. 42, Hunter Salas. Probably won't turn into anything. That might have been a slight miss by me. I know people had him higher. I know people had him lower. But it is what it is. He's just not showing too much right now. 43, Mark Sears. Had a Kemba and Shane Larkin comp for play style. Not too mad at that. I think with Mark Sears, he's one tier too high. Something to take note of for this upcoming draft cycle, again, is I am a firm believer that people at any size can play any position. Not to take too much account into that when it comes to Mark Sears. Defensively, he just can't hold up in the NBA. That's something he's going to have to figure out if he wants minutes. 44, we have Dink Pate, Fryer. If you know, you know. 45, Johan Viranji. Marcus Camby and Andre Drummond comparison. I think that also is pretty accurate. I know some people who were very high on him, and that looks decent right now because he did have some great flashes as a lob threat and rim protector. Whether he can do that, 20 to 30 minutes a game, that's to be determined. But after year one, if I had to re-rank these guys, I do wish I'd put Birangi a little bit higher. 46, Amari Williams. He was the consensus 53rd guy, and he had a really good rookie season for the Celtics. Again, all of these guys from now on are going to have somewhat limited playing time, but when he was playing, he's a positive impact guy. That just tends to be who the Celtics gravitate towards, and they figure it out. Amari Williams, again, I'm pretty happy with him at 46. 47, we have John Tonji. D'Lo quickly comp. Makes sense because he's an absolute bucket. He needs to be a competent defender in order to stick in the league. But having Tonji at 47, I have no regrets. 48, Kadari Richmond. DeJounte Murray and Markelle Fultz comparison. He was the consensus 75 guy. Wild to me. And I tried telling people, don't sleep on Kadari Richmond. They were worried about his shot, and as a 6'5" guard, he doesn't play like a guard. Good players find ways. And I was right about him. His per 36, 13, 5, and 4 with 4 steals a game. It's so obvious to me. He was a top 60 pick. I'm pumped about Kadari Richmond. Not saying he's going to be anything special moving forward, but the fact that he's playing better than the majority of rookies, I had him as a draftable guy. He was one of my top undrafted free agents, and that came to fruition. Again, that just reinforces me that, this scouting thing, kind of good at it, 49, Kobe Brea. Max Strus, Alonzo Trier comparison. I think that's good too. Didn't get much PT. Jury's out on him. Another thing I'm noticing is I'm putting too many players in tiers that are higher than they should be. I guess another way of putting it is I'm being too nice with the tiers that I'm putting these guys in. So that's something I need to take note of for this upcoming draft cycle. So yeah, mental note. 50, Alex Tui, Cam Johnson, Jeremy Lamb comparison. Again, jury's out on him. We haven't seen him play. 51, Ryan Nembhard, another undrafted guy that I was saying I can't believe they went undrafted. Why? Traits. Always bank on traits late in the draft. Fade older players, older, more dominant players, well-rounded in college, to bank on certain traits. That is probably the biggest takeaway from this board that I'm realizing right now. Ryan Nembhard, one of the most elite passers in college, despite his lack of size, and he did great things for the Mavericks this year, and I fully expect him to be in the rotation next year, even if it's only 10 to 15 minutes a game. 52, Rocco Zikarsky, Nick Richards, Alex Len-Comp. He's still a couple years away. Definitely a big developmental project still. We'll see what happens with him. Elijah Martin. He kicks off our purple tier, being the garbage minutes and two-way guys, and I think that fits the description of Elijah Martin perfectly. 54, Eric Dixon. Unfortunately, he had a season-ending injury, which is not good for him because he was one of the oldest rookies in the class anyway. I have a strong feeling that he will not live up to this 54th ranking that I had for him on my board. Unfortunately, that is out of his control. So hope he gets better, hope he gets back on track, but that's just a hard thing to overcome, especially in your rookie season. 55, Igor Milicic from Tennessee. He was okay in the G League. I still like his potential, but I need to see more. 56, Sion James, Javon Carter, Corey Joseph comparison there. He came out hot out the gate. And one of my favorite things every year is the first 1 to 2 weeks of the season. People are watching every game. They're excited the league is back. And they say stuff like, oh my gosh, Sion James, top 5, top 10 rookie. How did he slip through the cracks and whatever? And it's like, dude, come on. Throughout the season, he fizzled out. He wasn't playing to the level he was those first 2 weeks. It happens every year with a handful of guys. We got to chill on Sion James hype, all right? 57, Zeke Mayo. I think this is the right range for him. Not too much to say. 58, Chase Hunter, KCP and Gary Harris comp. Again, I had him in my top 60 because I believed in the shooting, and that clearly has not translated thus far. I have a feeling this is going to be a bad ranking looking back. 59, Coleman Hawkins, Jonathan Isaac, and Danielle Marshall comparison. If any of you guys remember Danielle Marshall, shout out to you. Super underrated player. But he averaged 9, 8, and 7 in the G League. Mr. Do-It-All. Also 2.5 stocks. Coleman Hawkins, again, underrated defender. He shot horribly. Really, really, really bad. Needs to figure that out if he wants a chance to have a two-way contract. At 60, we have former Badger Chucky Hepburn. He's definitely on his way into an NBA contract. He was a two-way guy this year. Played great for the Raptors in 905 when he got called up. He had some very impactful moments as well. Showed flashes of being a legit NBA guy and a guy in this upcoming draft cycle. Not to jump ahead, but Jacoby Gillespie, I think, him and Chucky Hepburn are kind of one and the same in my opinion. Of being a little bit underrated, having some disadvantages against them physically, but have all the makings of being, an end of the rotation guy. 61, Vlad Golden. I only did comparisons for the top 60, so from now on there won't be any. Vlad Golden will be a good G Leaguer, I guess. 62, Tamar Bates. only played one G League game. 63, Victor Lakin. Bad year. Should have had him lower. I was intrigued by a 7-footer who has potential to shoot. And I really like that Clemson team. 64, Wooka Poplar. Very efficient. Hoping to see him called up this next year a little bit for a two-way contract. I love his game. He's smooth. I think he has potential to develop a little bit into being an NBA guy. Will he get that opportunity? I don't know. I can't guarantee it. 65, Lamont Butler. ACL injury, he's probably done in terms of his NBA hopes. So again, that sucks. 66, LJ Cryer. He wasn't even in the consensus top 100. LJ Cryer, who's not in the consensus top 100, I had him at 66, and he got run in Golden State this year and looked good. Yeah, it's just mind-boggling how some people scout. And again, this whole time I'm fully admitting my mistakes, but not having LJ Cryer at least in your top 80 as a consensus group of scouters, what are we doing? He was clearly talented enough to be draftable. Wild. 67, Khalif Battle. He's playing for Aquila Basket in Italy. Best wishes to him. Hope he succeeds. 68, Neoklis Aftalas. I simply just missed him withdrawing his name from the draft. And he withdrew his name from the draft this year. So, jury's still out on him too. 69, Curtis Jones. Great year in the G League. Got a little bit of run in Denver. Didn't look too bad. We'll see how he does moving forward. Juwan Roberts. He's playing at Alba Berlin in Germany. Kobe Sanders at 71. Hated that pick on draft night. He was consensus 51. And honestly, he was pretty efficient. Outside of his efficiency, he was awful. When he shot the ball, it went in more than average. Other than that, he was atrocious. Bad pick by the Clippers. And honestly, they had two bad picks because coming right up at 72, Yannick Conan Niederhauser. Mind-boggling that he went 30th. Tried telling people that he's more of an idealistic NBA prospect, not realistic NBA draft prospect. And this year, there might have been a flash or two of like, oh, not bad. But for the 30th pick, yeah, no, he's definitely closer to an undrafted prospect than a first-rounder by far. Jackson Robinson at 73, meh, don't have much to say there. Peyton Sanford, he can be an okay 3-and-D two-way guy, potentially. His brother Price, somehow I'm actually higher on him than I was on Peyton. Didn't see that coming a year ago from now, but that's where we're at. Bryce Williams at 75, cool G Leaguer. I still don't think his ceiling is going to be in the NBA rotation. I think he's a two-way or strictly G League guy. I know a lot of other people might have thought differently, but it is what it is. Brooks Barnheiser, honestly better than I thought coming into this year. Honestly, he played better than his ranking. Like he played at the level of a guy who was drafted, but he's still so limited simply because of his defense and how he fits into an NBA lineup. If you put him at the 3, he's not going to be able to defend the small forward, but you don't want him taking away the position of shooting guard because he's more of a mid-range threat than deep threat, even though he is a good shooter. Again, just really weird prototype there. Chris Youngblood at 77. So far, he's developing great. I really hope he gets a more solidified two-way contract, something like a Spencer Jones, where he just comes out, kills it, and then gets converted into the rest of the season contract, just because his development from college to year 1 was fantastic. Pretty impressed with him. Arthur Kaluma at 78. Good season in the G League. Not much else to say about him. 79, Janelle Davis. I think this. Oh, sorry, we're already in the round tier here. Don't draft, but worth trying out for short contracts. And I think that's accurate to Janelle Davis. He's forever going to be a college legend. So he's already made his mark on history, but I just don't think he's an NBA guy. Here's two players in a row that I am wrong on. At 80 and 81, I had Javon Small and Will Richard. Yeah, another thing I'm learning. Everyone needs scrappy guards. It doesn't matter. Like, there's some players where, especially with guards, where being small matters. Size does matter, but it also depends on how they play. If you're small and not defensive-minded and scrappy, you will struggle. But you can be small and play bigger than your size on defense. Be a stock machine, be a play disruptor, and that will give you a lot of value because that's a lot more rare than your traditional point guard archetype. So Javon Small proved me wrong. I will learn from that in this upcoming draft cycle. Will Richard, wrong again. Genuinely going to get some garbage minutes like he did this year. Could potentially work his way into a rotation. I still am hesitant on how far he can develop, but he is clearly an NBA player. 82, Max Shulga. I was right about him. Consensus, 63rd best player. Hooping in the G League, but he's going to stay in the G League. I don't see him being an NBA guy. 83, John Polakaitis. I think he's the definition of the tier he's in. 84, Sean Padula. He's a two-way contract. In the G League, he averaged 24, 5, and 7. That is ridiculous. Again, he's very limited in his upside, and I don't think he's going to be anything special, but I would definitely have him as a potential top 60 guy in a redraft, just based on how he played in the G League. Cliff Omarui, he's playing in Greece right now. Whatever. 86, we have Caleb Love. And you might be thinking, oh, how'd you have him all the way this low? I don't want this rookie year to fool you. Caleb Love somehow got way more playing time than Jan Hansen, even though he was undrafted. It doesn't make sense to me. And he played well. He played better than we all expected, but he still wasn't good. Just a weird year for the Blazers organization and their rookies. Clearly, Caleb Love is better than the 86th player in this class, but I'm still not mad at putting him in this tier of garbage minutes, don't draft, but worth trying out. Maybe I'd have him in a tier above, just because he was in the rotation for a solid chunk of the year and wasn't the worst player ever. But again, just a weird situation there. 87, we have Javier Francis. Just not good enough to be in the league. Just no sugarcoating there. 88, Jonas Adu. I definitely butchered that. But he's become strictly a defensive player, similar to Malik Brown in this upcoming class. He needs to expand his tools on offense to be consistent in the league because defensively he is at an NBA level for sure. It's just offensively he doesn't do anything. 89, RJ Davis, who's been hooping in the G League, but he's not going to be an NBA player, let's face it. Keyshawn Gilbert at 90. He might earn a two-way contract this upcoming season. He's been solid. Excited to see how he develops. 91, he's on Almanza. He's getting DNPs overseas for Real Madrid right now. His consensus rank was 61. I had him at 91. Again, another example of an idealistic prospect and a realistic prospect for some of these guys. I think it's blatantly obvious that he just wasn't ready to be an NBA player, and it didn't work out for him. Oh well. 92, Omar Ballo. He's playing in Italy right now. Caleb Grill. He's pretty mid. I think he'll be playing overseas soon. Now we're starting our black tier, which is 100% non-NBA player. Spoiler alert, I was wrong about one of these guys. And it's not Nolan Hickman. I still think he fits in this tier. Ethan Taylor, I don't think he's going to be playing basketball professionally much longer. There's just not much there. Grant Nelson, he saw NBA minutes but shouldn't have. The only reason why he did is because he's with the Brooklyn Nets system, and they have the least amount of talent in the NBA, so he got gifted a chance to play. Still out on Grant Nelson for sure. 97, Nate Santos. Completely forgot he existed until I was doing research for this video. But here's where I was wrong. 98, Jamal Meshack. He's just another example of a versatile defensive player outweighing the lack of offensive traits. And in a league that's so stereotypically offensive-minded, offensive-focused, truly the defense in this league is by far the most exceptional it's ever been. Meshack is an example of that. And again, is another reason to bank on traits at the end of the draft instead of a more well-rounded player. You want the more well-rounded players in the first round, early second. But end of draft, take those swings. Take those swings. You have barely anything to lose. That's what I'm taking away from this. 99, Miles Kelly. Surprisingly, played fantastic this year. I think he should move up one tier, so I was slightly wrong about that. And then last but not least, Kobe Johnson. I think he's a perennial G-Leaguer. That was my top 100 review of last year's board. I'm super pumped about this year. Again, I am going to be going way more in depth with scouting reports, posting on Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. So yeah, pretty soon I will be starting my final round of scouting. And before you know it, draft day is going to be here, and I'm looking forward to it. So, love God, love others, love yourself. Peace.